Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Jaguar Sharks podcast. I am one of your hosts today. We will also have Jesse and Hope with me, and we have a very special guest on today's episode, Oren Soffer, who is the cinematographer of the film The Creator that came out last year. That was my favorite visual experience of last year beyond The Boy and the Heron, which we do bring up in the episode. And off air, I want to say Oren told me that he liked that one a lot as well. So I just want to say I feel a little claimed off air. Thank you so much for being here. If you're watching this in the Patreon cut, you got here early for $1, and that means you mean a ton to us. The show's going to start in just a minute. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, hey, a bunch of people got to see this early. They got to watch this on our Patreon. If you check that out, it's $1 a month for access, and that's it. Nothing else. It's the easiest Patreon that you could ever see. If you're watching this on YouTube, also subscribe to the channel. Check out our TikTok where we post our clips. We also have an Instagram. And please check out everything that Oren does as well. He's got a website, orensoffer.com. He's also on Letterboxd, Instagram. I found him on Twitter. He's all over the place. So if you'd like to get in contact with him on social, you can check those out as well. Thank you so much again for watching the episode. Here we go. So let's, I want to start off with a joke real quick if you're down for this, Oren. Are you a Letterboxd guy?
I am.
Oh, I love it. Okay, awesome. I had to make a new Letterboxd group last night. The Letterboxd group is films shot by Oren that open with a pregnant woman in a scary situation walking into water. Because I happened to watch A Nightmare Wakes and The Creator. And I was like, wait a second. Wait, these are opening exactly the same way. What is happening here?
That's amazing. I have never made that connection until this very moment.
Very slick, Seth.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. Wonderful.
You gotta do it with the next one. You gotta get the hat trick. You gotta get it.
Yeah. If you give me a third one, I will freak. I will freak the fuck out.
Well, now I have to. Like now, I will literally
Yeah.
pick my next movie based on whether or not it has an opening scene with a pregnant woman walking into a body of water.
You know what actually got me?
We'll be watching you.
Before I watched those, we had just watched the new Evil Dead, which also opens with a woman in water with the title card, and I was like, I'm 3 for 3 today. This is amazing.
It does. Also one of the best recent title card reveals of any film.
Oh God, yeah.
Hard agree. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's dive into it. We've all kind of prepared a few questions for you. I'm really excited to dive into your filmography. You're a prolific motherfucker. Like we were remarking before you jumped on here, at your age, you have like 60 plus credits to your name that I could dig up in my background search here. So when do you stop working? At what point does it end?
You know, it's so funny. I do not consider myself a workaholic.
Really?
Your Wikipedia says otherwise.
I know it's funny, but I love not working. Like I love, like you said, I'm a Letterboxd guy. I like watching movies. I like going to American Cinematheque. I like going to the Arrow and to the New Bev, and I like having time to do those things. And I like having time to play board games and go on hikes and like live life a little bit and go to a museum. And I think it's important to do all those things, by the way, too. Like you want to have, a well-rounded existence and exposure to culture and all that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't mention the monster truck rallies, but no, I'm just kidding.
Hey, listen,
I've never been to a monster truck rally, but I would love to go. But I like not working and I like working. It's like a nice balance, a little bit of both. So the filmography, I mean, the only thing I can explain that with is like, it's been 14 years, it accumulates, I guess. Like a lot of those credits are student films, the shorts. I did a lot of student shorts.
Yeah.
A lot of student shorts. So IMDb, if you're on my IMDb and you're looking at anything that is a short from 2013 or earlier, that's a student short. So those were, very prolific at NYU. You're shooting a film almost every weekend. So there's probably a lot that aren't on IMDb that are still on there. But like, is that part of the, I don't know, the workaholic filmography? Maybe not. It is on IMDb, and that's all that matters.
Right.
Well, every little bit.
Credits, man.
Yeah, exactly. Just racking them up. That's right. It's a numbers game, really.
every little
Yeah.
bit helps to, hone your craft and such.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
It does. No, it does. That's yes, you're absolutely right. Every single job and every single shoot. But also, yeah, quantity over quality is what people always say, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, they say the opposite.
So,
well, if you're Marvel, that's true.
Well,
I had to get one in there.
what does that switch from shorts to features look like for you then? Was that a choice of yours? Was that an aim or a goal, or was that something that just kind of happened naturally with racking up these credits?
I think it's everybody's goal eventually. Like
Right.
as a DP, you're like, I want to shoot features. My first feature we shot in film school, which was atypical, but it was
Whoa.
basically a group of us, directed by Marley Rodriguez. Shout out. Still a very good friend of mine. Actually, most of the people who worked on that are still good friends of mine.
I love that.
And in the summer between junior and senior year, we were like, what if we make a movie? Basically, what if instead of a thesis film, which is which are shorts at NYU, we just make a feature? And that's what we did. So that was my first feature. And in terms of the jump, like it's just the same, really. Like it's like 4 short films, basically. Like that's what it felt like at first. Because a short film you shoot, like the more robust ones, like the NYU thesis films, you probably shoot over like 5, 6, or 7 days. The more robust projects, like senior year projects.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a 20-day feature, that's just 4 of those. So it's really not that crazy a leap when you really think about it. It's just like doing 4 short films back to back. And with features, especially because there's different locations and stuff like that, like you almost can treat each week or each chunk of a feature as its own film, like as its own little unit. And then you just need to be consistent across all the units. Like there's a cohesive visual language, obviously, but in terms of compartmentalizing it mentally, it makes the task of like looking at 4-week shoot as opposed to a 3 or 4 day shoot a lot less daunting.
Right.
And the jump to the creator obviously was much bigger because I had done every feature that I had done. The longest I did was 24 days prior to the creator.
Mm-hmm.
And then the creator was 90 days.
Whoa.
So that's a big jump in terms of the length of the shoot, but mentally it ended up kind of being the same thing. It was like each unit of the shoot, like because it's a road movie and we're shooting all over the place and there's sort of like mental chunks of filming in different locations. Okay. Each one of those is like a film. So it's like, okay, well, we're here for 3 weeks. So that's just a 3-week feature. And then we're going to this other location for 2 weeks. So that's another 2-week unit mentally. And it's like, you just kind of get through those milestones until you get to the end of the shoot.
So that's how you get a 5-hour assembly cut is you're shooting a feature in each kind of chunk.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that listing as a 5-hour assembly cut. I was like, what was cut? I'm like, it's like 2 hours, 10 minutes.
What was going on there? Like,
yeah, there's a lot that got cut. Actually, there's a lot that got cut that we shot that was in the script.
I'm sure I'm wading into NDAs here. Is there anything that you saw on set that's not in the movie that you were a little bummed didn't make it in?
You know what it is everything that we shot is in the movie, but it's all cut down. So a lot of the sequences in the film that are little glimpses of flashbacks, those were fully fleshed out flashbacks. Like we shot those for weeks.
Called it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and then in the edit, what you realize, this is what's so funny about it. And like I'm a DP, so I have no horse in this race, but it's interesting to observe as a filmmaker being a part of the process. Flashbacks are tricky because on paper they make a lot of sense. And like in written form, you're reading a story, you're following along like a script, a novel, whatever it is, you allow it to kind of take you to all sorts of different places and take you on a bit of a journey. The minute you're watching a movie, flashbacks get really boring really quickly because you're like, but what about the story? Like, what about the narrative, the action that we were invested in and paying attention to that's taking place in present day, like unfolding in real time? That's so much more interesting than an extended flashback. And you realize that when you watch a cut, like that's when you realize like, oh, you know what? It's actually like this really drags. So That's
Gotcha.
kind of what
Okay.
happened, you know? And I think everybody has the
Yeah.
idea that they're like, flashbacks will work in our film. But
Mhm.
even though they haven't, the other filmmakers have encountered the same problem. And then you get into the edit and it's like, nope, it's still a problem.
Yeah. I've actually been I'm currently reading Lord of the Rings. I'm in the middle of the second book right now, and there's a whole section where remember in the second film where the Ents are attacking Orthanc, Saruman's tower. Remember that?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
entire description is described in a flashback by Mary after they arrive. So it's
Yes.
like if they had actually shot it that way and it's just him recounting everything, it would be horribly boring.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's things like that where it's like changing things in order to not make it a flashback. Flashbacks are good in like small snippets, but if you have extended flashbacks, it really would ruin pacing. So
Yes.
because you're
And
just
that's how
you're
we ended up.
stopping the narrative right
Exactly.
there to exposize to the audience.
Exactly. So that's how the flashbacks in the film ended up the way they are now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of material that we shot that was awesome. And maybe one day 10th year anniversary, director's
Right.
cut, special edition, 8K, Blu-ray, whatever. Who knows what.
Give
what
me
things are
the
gonna be.
Edwards cut.
Yeah, it'll be in the Apple VR at that point. Like, I don't even know what are we going to be watching in 10 years? Who knows?
We'll
Right.
beam it right into your brain, I guess. I don't know.
I saw
Yeah.
that Batman movie.
Shell.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Just.
Damn it, Seth. So yeah, so I asked to do this interview because you know two people that I work with and are friends of mine. My friends Blake and Maya. You know them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So well, one thing Maya pointed out that there was like 4/0 cable in a shot that was in the creator, and I caught that, and I was like, I'm gonna ask him about that, and she said, please don't. And then she asked you directly in the group chat, and I was like, the fuck? Like, why do you get to ask and I don't?
To be fair, I just commented on it. She didn't ask me directly, but I saw the post and I thought it was very funny. And yeah, I mean that cable was just there. Like that's that we didn't place that. There's a lot of that in the movie. I mean that was part of the beauty of the process of making it was like what's already here. You know, let's use that. Like there's layers. Production design is an interesting thing because the real world often, like in places like that, like in rural Thailand, like a village somewhere, or in that case, that scene is in Nepal, but similar idea.
Mm-hmm.
There's like layers of 100 years of just stuff, like cables, telephone wires, wire, like old school, you know, wires from before telephones, old power cables, new power cables on top of them, pavement, new pavement, crumbling pavement, rocks filled out, like all these little textural things that a really skilled art department can fake that, but it's almost never as good as the real thing. Like the real thing, just the layers of stuff that accumulates over time and the texture and the randomness of it it's like, oh, we didn't have to do anything here at all. It's perfect the way it is. And you know, we run into that with costumes a lot. Gareth is very particular about this, like costumes. And now I can't stop seeing it in shows like fantasy and sci-fi shows. Costumes look too clean.
Yeah.
And always. And it's like they look like fresh off the press. And you're like, no, but in a fantasy world, like if somebody was wearing a tunic, it would be filthy. Like it would be dirty, ratty, crumbling, like and a lot of times costume designers, and I understand why, are protective of their work. So they're like, here, look at this. And then you ask them to dirty it up and then they just like rub some dust on it. And you're like, no. That's not enough. Take this thing, throw it in the ocean, drag it behind a car for a mile on a dirt road, throw it in an oven, and then put it on the actor.
Right. Yeah.
And then it looks like it's actually lived in.
I'm gonna say that makes me think of one of the earlier seasons of Walking Dead that always bugged the ever living shit out of me was Andrea was tied up. Again, this is the apocalypse, zombie apocalypse. They don't shower regularly, everything.
Yes.
She's tied up, and then they pan to her feet, and she's trying to get like a tool because she's tied up, and I'm like, bitch, where did you get time for a pedicure? Why are you being
Yeah.
so nice?
Dude.
And so it's like the same thing, and it drives me insane when I see that. So I
Yes,
totally get what
yes.
you're saying.
I mean, there's a fine line with teeth, hair, nails, skin, like, because you don't want you can't make a movie where everybody looks like the creature behind the dumpster in Mulholland Drive. Like nobody wants to watch that.
Right.
But there has to be, like, you have to meet in the middle somewhere. So like you have to do in those kinds of settings. I always appreciate when they do something like in
Mhm.
Paul Giamatti's been doing all these interviews and everyone
He's hot right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
Because he went to In and Out.
he's having a moment. He's having a moment.
Okay.
No. It's because he's going to win an Oscar. That's why. He and deserves it, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Deserves it. And so talking about John Adams, and he's been talking in these interviews about the teeth. And it's such a good little thing because it's like that's one thing that they did to just like give it a little bit of something. People are a little bit more groomed. They're less smelly looking and dirty than they would have actually been in the 1700s. So you give the filmmaking that like grace to be like,
Right.
we know that we can't just make you look at something completely disgusting, but they did all have teeth, like that fake teeth that are a little bit rotted. But even he
Yeah.
pointed out, he was like, in reality, none of those guys had any teeth. Like
Yeah.
by that point,
Right.
your teeth have all rotted out of your skull by age 30 in 1770.
Right.
So they were like, okay, well, we can't do that because nobody's going to want to watch that.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is we'll meet it in the middle. We'll give everybody little dental prosthetics, and they're kind of stained and dirty, and like there's a few missing teeth, but we're not going to go all the way. So I agree with giving it a little bit of that sort of
Mhm.
film magic, but with costumes and set design, it really bothers me now when it's like too
Yeah.
pristine, and
Yeah.
original Star Wars was great at that, but it's because they went out to the desert and
Yep.
everything got
Yeah.
dirty.
Yep.
So it has that texture, Anyway,
Yeah. My favorite
a
thing
lot
of
of
Walking Dead
tangent.
is
I don't know how we got down this road, but
yeah, my favorite thing of Walking Dead is whenever anybody's in like a town somewhere and they're just like, "Hey, who's mowing the grass?"
Yes.
Like all
oh
the
God, I
grass.
mean, yeah.
It's got to be the
That's my
zombies,
favorite.
right?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course.
the person mowing the grass is the location owner in Savannah, Georgia, that whose house it is that they're shooting
course.
outside. Like that's who mowed the
course.
grass. It's-
Jeez.
Say they were
So-
overrun by goats and they're just, slowly eating all
there
the
you go. It was the goats. How about that? They should put a disclaimer at the start of every episode.
Yeah. So
Roaming
Blake had
bands of goats. Yeah.
so Blake had a couple of questions actually. He said, gracefully ask Oren what their Sherpas made. I don't know what that means.
I don't have an answer to that. The
Okay, so
Sherpa,
that's
well,
yeah.
Sherpa is an ethnicity. Actually, it's the type. It's the peoples. It's native
Nepal,
peoples of
right?
Nepal
Yeah.
who
Okay.
over history. I mean, they know the Himalayas. That's where they're from,
Gotcha.
and so in early expeditions, the Sherpas were the peoples who guided British and colonial expeditions to Everest and the Himalayas and all that.
Interesting.
And to this day, they still do. So I was not actually in Nepal, so I couldn't even answer that question if I wanted to. Nepal was like a very, very small unit. It was just Gareth and a focus puller and the actors, like very, very small. And I'm assuming a couple of Sherpas.
Right.
but yeah. So I don't know how much they made, but I hope they made enough.
Okay. That goes into something with regards to this being like a road film that's set in Thailand, that it's the globalization of the American filmmaking system and how other nations are used in the process. Like in terms of creating art, is it easier or is it harder to do it over there? It seems like it's easier because this is a less than $100 million film.
Yes, it was ultimately easier, I would say. I mean, it's maybe harder for the people in charge of logistics, but that's not me, so I
Right.
don't care. Creatively, it's easier. It's easier, but kind of for the reasons I was just saying. Like, you just get so much free texture and
Yeah.
lighting and like just character. That's why we went there. Like Gareth's whole thesis about the film is, and about filmmaking in general, was you can build sets. Like you could build a set of anything you want in a soundstage in Los Angeles, in London, wherever. And you can get all of the most skilled craftspeople and artisans to build that set and make it feel like a real lived in place. And people do that. But the thing is that for less money, you can fly a smaller group of people. Like that, what I just described, the building the set, that takes a ton of money.
Yeah.
And it takes
Oh,
a
yeah.
ton of resources, hours. Like it takes, I mean, big films that build set, like those take months. Sets take months to build and age and dress and light. And you need thousands of lights, and you need big setups, and you need big crews, and you need, so it's cool. On the one hand, it's cool to have control. Like it's cool to have full control over the design and the look of things. And that works perfectly great for a film like Dune, for example, which is mostly sets, at least almost all of the interiors. And it's also because they're building a specific world, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Dune,
Mhm.
Lord of the Rings, whatever, like insert, X here. It's like the interiors it's a specific world. But Gareth's thesis was, well, look, let's say it costs $5 million, and that's a realistic number to build a certain set.
Right.
Mhm.
Like a hero set that you spend months designing and building and aging and shooting in. $5 million. You know how many people you can fly to anywhere in the world for a fraction of that amount of money? Like
Right.
Yeah.
for just a few $100,000, you could fly a whole crew of people and equipment and everything to any location in the world, and get all of that stuff that we're talking about, the texture, the lived-in quality, the character, for free, because you just went to a place that already has what you're looking for. So he's like, why not do that for everything we can for the film? And you get all of that stuff for free. You get all of that texture, and you have to surrender a little bit to that. You have to surrender to what you're getting. So you'll have to let go a little bit of the control of the, like, well, I want it to look exactly like this. It's more about, I want it to feel somewhat like this or this or this. And here's a place that feels like that. Or in Gareth's case, like he had visited most of these places in the past and on a location scout.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic. So a lot of the film was then written to locations that he knew existed in the real world,
That's cool.
which
That's
is another
smart.
advantage. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't some of this stuff also the same places they shot parts of Rogue One, like the ending? Was that the same general location, or was it somewhere else?
No, I don't think we repeated any Rogue One locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looked a little similar with the beach and such. So.
No, that I think that's in the Maldives
Okay.
on
Gotcha.
Rogue One, and we were in Thailand. It looks similar because it's the same part of the world.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Same kind of beautiful tropical southern hemisphere. Well, it's not southern hemisphere, but it's close to the equator.
Right.
Goodness. So yeah, Maldives are like a hop skip away from southern Thailand. Just a 24 hours on a rickety plane to the middle of the ocean somewhere. But you end up kind of getting the same beach. So
Jeez.
Not
what were
really,
your days? What were your days like on that? Was it like long days? Was it short days? I'm typically an advocate of the 12 hours or less. I typically hate when you have to go past 12 hours because it really starts to take a toll on the crew.
yeah, we shot 10-hour days.
Whoa.
No shit.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finally,
Nice.
it's possible. It's
Yeah.
possible.
Yes, it is. And by the way, that's all another way to how do you survive a 90-day shoot?
10-hour days.
You shoot 10-hour days, and then you're not dead by the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah, I really don't. I've been working in the business since 2008 as an electric, and so there's so many people I've seen that whenever I say I don't like working more than 12 hours, they're like, oh, what are you, some kind of pussy? It's like, no, we're going to work 15, 16 hours. And it's like, these people typically have multiple divorces. They're estranged from their kids.
They don't want to go home, I guess.
They don't want to go home. They
Yeah.
they live at their job, and it's like they're miserable all the time. And it's like, is this really what you want? It's like, it should be, yes, it is an art form. Yes. But it's also just a job. You shouldn't have to dedicate every aspect of your life to it.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand that
Yeah.
at all.
Mm.
Oh, go
It
ahead, Hope.
takes a toll on people too. Like I'm a big mental health advocate. I actually work with psychologists. I work in the medical field,
Yeah.
and like it takes such a toll on people to work so many hours, especially with you guys, because it's not a consistent, like, quote unquote 9 to 5. It might be 10-hour days, but you might be doing night shoots one week and day shoots the next week, or so it's like switched up, and it can take a toll on you. So if you
Yeah.
overdo it, you're going to just kill everybody. You're going to kill your brain, you're going to kill your body. It's so having something structured like that is so important. So I'm so glad you did that.
Right.
Exactly. I mean, I'll point out, by the way, because I'm also a big advocate around this stuff, and I want to make sure that the Overton window on this is shifted significantly further than it is already.
Wow.
10-hour days is also too much.
No, it is. It is.
It's something we should include in the conversation. Like 10 hours is also a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you
Um,
factor in drive time as well, like to and
Right.
from locations, that's an extra
'cause-
hour both ends.
That's correct. It's an extra, and for us, it was often more than an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Because some of our locations were quite remote from where we were staying. So it was sometimes more than an hour at the start of the day and at the end of the day. And now we arrive to set half an hour to 45 minutes before call
Yeah.
to have breakfast and sit down and kind of talk about the day a little bit. And then you have a half hour to 45-minute lunch. So, and that's not included within the 10 hours.
Right.
So really the
Right.
whole day is 12 to 13 hours, portal to portal.
Mhm.
And that's just to stress how crazy it is to do all of that and then have a 12-hour day in the middle of it, plus all this other stuff on this end and all this
Right.
other stuff on this end. Because that is, even if you're sticking to 12 and not going over, that's still a 14-hour day at least
Yeah.
every day. And that's just unsustainable. It's unsustainable on your body, your mind, your personal life, your sanity, and your dietary intake, like everything. It's just everything becomes impossible.
Yeah.
And I think the work suffers a little, like, because even though you have more time, I don't think you're using it any more efficiently by the final hour or two of a day like that. And so, 10-hour days, it wasn't even a fight. Like that was, I think maybe, it came from, it was mostly a British production, like most of the production crew.
Interesting.
And I think that might be
Okay.
a standard there, because we did 10-hour days when we shot in London as well. So I think that might just be more of a standard. And I think in general, I've heard, I mean, I haven't really worked in France and some of the other places, but my understanding is that is actually a standard in other European countries. And we should learn a thing or two from that.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate that 12 has sort of become the thing where, like, we're fighting for 12, because everybody goes over 12,
Right.
which is outrageous.
Yeah.
But like, we should be fighting for 8 and then meeting in the middle, like
Yes.
compromising in the middle somewhere. But anyway,
Imagine if it was any other job. Imagine if it was anything else. Like if you were working in the food service industry or something like that. It's like, you want to be 12 hours in a kitchen? No, of course not.
Exactly.
Like, what is the
I say,
difference?
shut
You're
up.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I work third shift in a lab, and typically my days are 10 to 12 hours. So when Jesse just said that, I'm like, oh, shut up. I haven't been to sleep yet today, by the way.
Oh, no.
No.
So
But that's the point. It's unsustainable.
this is really hitting home, this conversation.
Oh, no.
Between my job and then I come on to do these podcasts with them, which is my passion, not my job, So it's like, it's hitting home right now so bad.
Right.
Well, listen, we're going to change it. We're going to change it right here, right now. We're going
Okay.
to say 8-hour days, 8-hour days.
Hey,
Right.
8-hour
Exactly.
days.
Well, and like across a 90-day shoot, you're only adding a week onto the end total. You know what I mean? That ask is not overall too much to say an 8-hour day. And I like the way you put it, portal to portal. You're still looking at a 10-hour plus day potentially on an
Right.
8-hour day.
Yeah.
Fair. You know what I mean? That sounds fair.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yes, it's fair, but life isn't fair.
Right.
And the reason, listen, we were lucky to shoot for 90 days. I mean, it's actually, the more I hear about other shooting schedules, like it's actually kind of astonishing to me that we shot for that long, because I hear about larger films, like bigger budget films that shoot in 60, 70 days. So like, I think we were really fortunate in that regard, because typically what dictates that is actor availability.
Yeah.
Um, and also just production costs. Like, yeah, adding a week at the end of a shoot sounds, like no brainer. Yeah, sure. Just add a week. But like, a week is millions of dollars. So it's just about resource allocation. That's not saying that's a bad thing, because if you stretch the same amount of money over a longer period of time and spend less every day, you put yourself in a scenario where you can shoot for longer, which I think is what we did.
Yeah.
We had a smaller crew, smaller footprint, et cetera. So I think that all dovetailed into it. Like, we're not paying for hundreds upon hundreds of people standing around on a stage that built sets and set up lights. And then, we did that for 2 weeks in London. We had like a more traditional shoot.
Yeah.
In that regard, traditional, quote unquote. But yeah, it's like, you could see how, oh God, if we did a whole movie like this with 12 to 15 electrics, rigging crew, 12 to 15 grips, big art department, dressers, scenics, everything. Like, you have all of those people on payroll for 4 months.
Yeah.
And the stage, you're renting the stage space. You're using
Yeah.
materials, resources. Like, that was the advantage of what we did, was like going to location. You don't need any of that. You need a small crew. We wanted a small crew because we wanted a nimble footprint. It's just a different approach. It's a different approach.
And
But it was
also,
cool.
to everyone out there, the creator was fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was my favorite of
gorgeous.
last year.
And like, to do what you guys did with your smaller footprint, with all that, and then to see all these overhyped, over exaggerated, over budgeted movies that just honestly suck in comparison to that, like, learn from these guys right here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, look, and I'll point out that, we're not the only ones out there doing this. Like, Nolan works in a similar way. And Oppenheimer, despite its scope and scale, was made for, I mean, it's funny to put the word only before this number, but it's made for about 100 mil, I think.
Well, you
Possibly
consider
less.
the
Might
cast
have,
and crew in and of
exactly.
itself
Right.
there.
It
So
might have been 90, but similar thing. It's very location heavy. Nolan works with a small crew. It's very efficient. He's not doing the stuff that you see on these big blockbusters where they're just renting out stages for 5 months and building every set. That's not how he makes movies.
Yeah.
And I think that more streamlined and that kind of narrower and more focused and more location heavy, smaller crew approach. I mean, he shoots single camera. Like, he doesn't even have multiple camera crews. Like, he's one camera crew.
Wow.
And I think of that also, the proof's in the pudding with that movie and his other movies and how they turn out. So I think the challenge with this approach is it requires a lot of discipline.
yeah.
And that's hard to come by these days. It's just hard to come by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare this to like anything that Marvel made last year, with the exception of Guardians 3. Like, you look at like the budgets on that, it's like 200 million, 300 million. It's like, why does it look worse? Like, and it's like, it's the shotgun effect. Like, shoot everything against the wall, see what sticks. But then you look at like the disciplined creators, like, Gareth with the creator, or while I didn't care for Oppenheimer, it does look good. It is a good looking film. I was not a big fan of the editing style. That drove me crazy. I'm sure there's a really good movie inside that 3-hour montage.
Oh my God, you're about to be livid when it wins Best Editing at the Oscars.
Right. Seth and I have had this problem with Nolan's editing ever since Dark Knight Rises. This is his standard editing style, and it's always bothered me and Seth, and it's just not for me.
Fair enough. To each their own.
So,
I mean,
but
I
yeah,
get it. I get it.
we've kind of dove into your work philosophies around film, and I'm very like I'll even say enamored to hear professionals talking this way and like a very empathetic to the human experience of making a movie and not
You
just
give
the
a shit
bottom
about your
line.
crew. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for giving a shit about your crew for real. Because that's as like a younger filmmaker that looks up to artists like you. I'm also listening for that kind of stuff. Like, is this something you give a shit about? Because it's something I give a shit about, and it's
Yeah.
I want it to catch on culturally, but I'd like to transition maybe into some of your artistic philosophies for a minute, if you're interested.
I would love that. I love artistic things.
So something that I've noticed going back through your filmography, you love to use shadow as your major and light
Yes.
as your highlight instead of the opposite with lots of front lighting. Where does that come from in your your history as a DP? Do you have like hard set artistic philosophies you like to stick to in your shooting? And am I keying into something here that you like doing, or
Yes, you are. But you know what's funny about it is that I don't necessarily do that on purpose,
okay,
if that makes sense. So what I think that is that is just that is an expression of my taste
okay,
as
Okay.
as a DP, as an artist, as a visual person. And I like and the way that I can explain that is when I am taking still photographs, which I do fully as a hobby. Like I am not a professional still photographer. Nobody hired me as a still photographer. Like I will do a bad job. I do not know how to light for stills. I don't know how to use strobes. I don't know any of the equipment. Like I just take pictures for fun as a hobby, and I have since I was a teenager.
yeah,
And obviously it dovetails into filmmaking. There's quite a bit of overlap, but the difference to me is that my stills work is 100% street photography. Like it is all, I do it on travels or just like day to day or on set, and it's all available light. It's all found lighting and found compositions. And even in that work, like when I'm framing up a shot or I see an image that's in front of my eyes that I'm like, oh, I should take a photo of this. It's usually what you just described. Like it's usually somebody kind of in a window that's mostly in silhouette with a little bit of edge light on them, or it's like some silhouette-y shape in a foreground. Like that's just what I'm drawn towards visually. And so then in my filmmaking work where I'm creating the lighting and creating the images, I'm drawn to the same stuff. Like that's
yeah,
just, if I light something and it doesn't look that way, I don't like it. And I don't want to shoot something I don't like.
yeah,
So I will hone and shape and tweak and adjust until it kind of gets into a place that I like it. But I'm not standing there saying, "Oh, the light isn't far side enough and the shadow isn't prominent enough. Let me adjust that." Like I'm not making the conscious choice in that regard.
yeah,
Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
just instinct. Like I think a lot of cinematography, and when people talk about style or taste or anything like that, like to me it all falls under the same umbrella. Because some DPs will say, "I don't have a style. I shoot a bunch of different stuff," and it's like, yeah, that's true, but you still have your instincts as a
yeah,
cinematographer. And that's what people look at and say style. They call it style, your accumulation of instincts or taste.
interesting.
So I see that in my work. Like I see that in hindsight, but I don't do it on purpose. But yeah, and I mean where that comes from is I think just it's just the stuff I like. It's chiaroscuro, it's Rembrandt, it's
Yeah,
Caravaggio, it's Dutch painters, it's Gordon Willis, it's Sven Nykvist, it's Nestor Almendros, it's Vittorio Storaro. Like that's what it is. It's just all those DPs were ripping off painters,
yeah,
and then all of the following generation of DPs, which is Deakins and Harris Savitas and all of them, they're ripping off those other DPs. I mean, I'm using ripping
Right.
off here as
It-
in a glib
very
way, but
very
but
positive way, right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
then I'm ripping all of them off. Like it's all,
Right.
it's all just an accumulation of, it all starts from the paintings though, really. That's where it
Mhm.
comes from originally. Like it's so amazing to me. I love going to art galleries, anytime there's a Dutch Golden Age exhibit anywhere, I'm like, beeline right there, because I love looking at those paintings because they look like they're on shot deck. Like they look like they're stills from contemporary movies.
Yeah.
Like some of them are striking in that regard. You're like, wow, they were really in tune with this type of lighting, like this type of sculpted, moody, atmospheric, contrasty lighting, and they were really attuned to it. It's really cool to see.
Say, come visit me in Florida over here. We have the Salvador Dali Museum is like 30 minutes from me.
I would love to.
Yeah.
I've been to the Dali Museum in Spain, I think it's in
Ooh.
Barcelona.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere near
All right,
Barcelona.
just show me up now. Thanks. Trying to.
So, it's only the place that he lived. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. No, just kidding. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I've always been a big museum person. I was just in New York. I popped over to the Met. I like just wandering around. I have a folder on my phone that's just photographs of paintings in museums. And
Awesome.
every time I see one, I just like, it just goes right into that folder. References for later.
Nice. That brings up. I wanted to address the. Oh no, go ahead. Hope you were saying something.
We can save my question for after because. Don't worry.
Okay, I was gonna say that the extensive lighting that was used on the creator was a lot of Helios tubes and a lot of Titan tubes. That's why I saw a lot of behind the scenes. Seth, we know a lot about those, don't we?
Yeah. We got a lot of practice with those in Salem.
Yeah, we were shooting our thing in Salem, and I was on a feature up in New York. I moved up to New York last year for work. I was working on a film, and then the work went away, and the strike happened. It's like, okay, I'm moving back home. Forget it. But yeah, it was on that movie that John Krasinski.
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, I worked on that. I was on the rigging electric crew. I saw the trailer, and I was like, I'm happy to have worked on it. I'm probably never going to watch this.
Yeah, I'm so curious. I'm just like, what is this? I mean, I'll watch it, but it's like John Krasinski. Interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
Well,
not what I expected.
Part of the selling point for it was that one of the sets was literally across the street from his apartment. So there's the bonus.
Nice.
It's pretty good bonus. I would take that gig.
roll out of bed, go across the street, go to work. Great.
Love it.
But yeah, we had an accumulated total of, I want to say it was like 130 Titan tubes.
Whoa.
And those things are egregiously expensive. And because then I saw the budget was like 200 million. I was like, Jesus Christ, but it's just a movie about cartoon characters coming alive. Why are we shooting it like this? And then you get on set and you realize, oh, it's Janusz Kaminski as the DP. And then you realize, oh, he likes to overlight and everything and then bring it down with filters in the camera. It's like, okay, so if you only needed like 3 18Ks to light the set for daylight, he'll overlight it and then dims it down with filters in the camera to match the lumens of the sun. Great, but that means you need another generator, you need more power, you need more people, and just the budget just kept going up and up and up and up. And it's like, all this for a cute comedy. I'm happy for the work, I'm happy for the paycheck, but it just felt like why?
I have a hard time with that, and it might be just because of it's like I come from a indie background, and like I've never had all those resources. But to me, I see that happen quite a bit. Like sometimes I'll see, you'll see like an American cinematographer article about some movie. I can't even think of a specific example, and you'll see the setup, and then you look at the final image, and you're like, I have that same thought. I'm like, you used all of that for this?
Yeah.
Like this just the final image looks great, looks beautiful, naturalistic. Like, wow, did you really need all of that? Like, I don't know. I find myself, I wonder, like, if I'm in that position, will I do that? Will I just do what everybody else does? But I'd like to think not. Like, I'd like to think that the philosophy of minimalism, extends to any scale and scope. It's like, sometimes you need a lot of lights just to light up a large space, but you're still keeping the philosophical approach to it is like, okay, well, but what's the minimal amount that I can use? And again, sometimes the minimal amount is I need an 18K in each window because I'm shooting in this gigantic, like vaulted ceiling, train station or something where that's 5 stories high, and if you need that amount of punch through each window, then that's what you're going to need.
Right.
Um, but would you need more than that? Like, why would you ever need more than that? You know what I mean?
Sure,
Like
yeah.
that to me just seems like that's all you would need. And I don't know. I mean, this might be naive on my part, and also I might be making some technical errors by exposing to what the camera needs as opposed to overexposing and then stopping it down in camera or with a LUT or whatever. Like there's various methods that people do to create a thicker digital narrative, quote unquote, digital negative, quote unquote, or an actual negative film negative. And I don't do that. Like I just tend to light to what I need. And often I'll even juice the ISO a little bit just to, like, I would rather underlight something and then light to an 800 ISO, for example, like whatever the speed of my slowest lens is, like T1118, let's say, and then find myself in a situation where like I'm pushing into a close up and it's a little underexposed. I would rather just switch, like juice the ISO to 1280 than like start relighting. Because it's just like, I would just go, just boost it a little bit and let's shoot. Like, I don't want to deal with relighting, adding another light, all that stuff. It just takes up so much time. And time is the most precious thing on set. Like time is everything. If I was good enough, maybe one day I'll get there, to just like pre-light, and have the resources to be able to pre-light everything.
Yeah.
And then do it to such a degree that you're not even really tweaking between setups. Like you've pre-lit it so well and so beautifully and naturalistically that you just don't even need to come in and add additional units when you move in from a wide to a close-up. That's what I would love to do that. Cause then you could just like shoot, and everything's pre-lit and you show up and it's like you've showed up at the most beautifully lit, like natural location with available light. And you're just the luckiest DP in the world. And you have this beautiful side light and it's just consistent because it's artificial, but you don't actually need to like tweak and adjust it as you go. That's like the ideal shooting scenario. And that you just don't stop. You just shoot, move in for the close up, shoot. Like the more time you get to do that, the better, because that's what we're here to do. Right. Like, we're here to get footage. Like we're here to get performance and stuff in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I hate wasting time with stuff behind the camera. I really do.
I feel like what it is sorry to cut in stuff, but I feel like what it is like it's the older group of filmmakers and cinematographers that are still stuck in the shooting on film mindset, which is that you have to take a ton of time to light everything. Like you guys shot the Creator on, was it FX3?
Yeah.
Like, a camera you can buy for $4,000. Like, and there was somebody that posted, I can't remember who it was. Some asshole in one of those Facebook chats was saying like real films are shot on the Alexa, and you posted the camera you literally shot the film on. And it's like, yeah, like you can like Sean Baker shot the film Tangerine on an iPhone.
Yeah.
It's like, we're at a point where the democratization of filmmaking has reached a point where you don't have to spend a ton of time shooting on celluloid or the Alexa or the Red. Like, Seth, who was the person that made the formula for post-production where you could translate digital media into looking like film? Who was that?
I've been trying to find it since we brought it up. It was a YouTuber that he's got an algorithm that basically relaces his digital photo as film, and it looks fucking fantastic, and it's free. And then immediately the whole film community they pounced on him. They're like, "How dare you? All the effort we put in." Like, no, it's like we've reached a point where you don't need to put in all that effort. He became a pariah.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to waste time anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to even listen to all that noise. Like Steve Yedlin, I think, popped the balloon of this like 5 years ago with his display prep demo. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but like at this point I use like a film emulator on Lightroom, like when I color my photos, when I do my photo editing, and every post house has like a proprietary version of that algorithm that you're discussing, like various film emulation tools and stuff like that. Like at this point, I mean, what we're emulating is the aesthetics, right? We're emulating aesthetics of film, gate weave, halation, etc. And like, you can emulate those, like you can fake those. And so purists will say that you can't, but I think the proof's in the pudding, and ultimately also it just doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, this is the other thing that drives me nuts about all this a little bit. Like 99% of audiences, the people that actually watch the stuff that we make,
they don't care.
They can't tell the difference. They don't care. They don't care. They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know, and they don't care. They don't. Now, that's not to say that they don't know or care about the aesthetics, because I think that the aesthetics can evoke different feelings, different moods. Like a movie like The Holdovers, which did a major like film emulation look to kind of evoke this feeling of like a 1970s film, that creates a feeling when you watch the movie that elicits nostalgia and memory of other films. Like that's why they're doing that. Now, a purist can say, well, they didn't fully accurately replicate this, and this element. But for a lay person watching it, that 2% where it's not perfect, they don't notice that. They notice the 98% of the facsimile of the look and the feel, and that's all that matters ultimately. Like that's all that matters. We're not making movies for the 2% of people who will notice the minutia. We're making movies for the 98% who we just need to broad strokes, like evoke a feeling and evoke a mood.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, I just don't really get into that kind of stuff. It's like, hey, does it create the mood that I want? Does it look good? Do I like how it looks? Then great. What else matters beyond that? I don't know. That's what I think. Same with lenses. Like a lot of times I'll see people online ask, I think from a good place. Like I understand why people have this instinct. They'll say, oh, I shot some footage for a film on these lenses and I can't get them anymore for pickups or reshoots. What would be like a similar lens that I can match to those ones? And my answer is always like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't. What does it matter? Like, what does it matter?
Yeah.
I guarantee you that 99% of people watching the film that you're working on or whatever you're making, and they see one shot that's shot on Canon K35s, and then they see another shot that's shot on Master Primes, they can't tell the difference.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't tell the difference. You color grade them to match, so there's no obvious jarring difference between them. And once you've done that, who's going to notice except like diehard cinematography people who are looking at like the different shape of the bokeh. They're like, well, the bokeh is different. And it's like, okay, how many of us can recognize that?
Right. Are you pausing the film in the theaters to raise your hand and go, hey, the bokeh changed. What the fuck?
Exactly. Oh my God, the bokeh. And it just took me out of I was into the movie and then the bokeh changed and now I can't. It broke my immersion. Damn it. Yeah. Filmmakers, what were you doing? Like I've never really experienced that. So
yeah.
Anyway.
There's only three things I've noticed that ever break immersion when you're watching a film. One is something's out of focus. Mm-hmm. Two, if the editing is jarring. And three, if the sound is off. That's it. Other than that, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
I love it. So I have to bring this up because I don't know if you can see behind me. I'm a big fan of Legos, and you are the first person in IMDb that I've ever looked up that mentions Legos specifically in the bio. So my question for you, what's the big Oren set? What is your like Lego mecca?
Like the one, the dream one that I don't have.
Oh yeah. Let's go with the one you don't have. But also, I'd like to hear like what's your home set.
Let me just pan this camera over.
Yes. Let's
see. How do I adjust the focus on this now? I think I could do it here.
If it's on your phone, you might just have to tap.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not.
It's weird. I thought it would auto do that, but yeah, weird. Anyway, out of focus in the background here, you can see multiple Lego sets.
Is that the escape vessel from the original Star Wars down there?
It just did it. That's the blockade runner. So I really got into mocks, and a mock MOC is a oh God, I don't even remember what it stands for, but basically it's this whole community where people design their own custom Lego sets and sell the instructions and the parts list. And then you can go on Bricklink and
Ooh.
order all the parts.
Yep.
And it's all automated. You just upload an XML and it populates your shopping cart with various shops in the world that people do this. They
That's
collect Legos
cool.
in order to sell the parts. And then you get the parts, they get shipped to your place, you sort them, and then you build the custom sets. And it's a lot more challenging than building a regular set because the regular ones, they have to be for kids. Like
Yeah.
there's rules. There's actually very specific rules of like they're called legal connections that
Yes.
Lego.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
how they do like the L shapes and they like put them at bends
Exactly.
to like make a circle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
okay,
So mocks the custom sets break the legal rules of what like an official Lego set can do. So they end up a lot more elaborate and more challenging to build. So that's how much of a nerd I am.
Yeah,
but
I knew we were
I
going to get
have
some nerdy ass
several-
answers. I wasn't
I have
expecting Lego
several
Black
Lego
Market.
sets
I'm going to be
from-
honest. That was a shocker
Yes.
for me, but hell yeah.
yeah. Which ones, what else, what do you guys have off camera?
Oh man, I wish I could show you. I have a 55-gallon aquarium with an underwater the abyss submarine set up with like 6 divers and like I do
fantastic.
like Lego dioramas basically.
Yeah. I don't have the space for that, but the one that's all the way in the end, over here, did that work? I don't know how I did it. I made it work last time, but the one that's all the way at the end, you can't see it. I have a mock, a custom set of the war rig from Mad Max Fury Road.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, nice.
I'm logging out right now. I'm leaving. This is the end of the
I-
interview. I'm too
I know.
jealous.
I kind of want to walk the camera over and show you, but
I
you can
would
find it
not say
online.
no.
You can find it online if you Google Mad Max Fury Road Lego. You'll see it. You'll find it.
I had to switch my lights. I'm green with envy now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm
So,
Nice.
so that's
mad.
my pride and joy. And let me just shout out quickly that somebody reached out to me on Instagram and they said, "Hi, I'm so and so. A few friends of mine and I we're Lego builders and we're doing the creator custom Lego stuff."
what?
And I responded to this person. I was like, "This is literally the best message I've ever received." and I was like, "Please send me everything. Send me your progress. Send me I want to see it all. I want to see every single step of this." So yeah, I'm all in. It's sad the film. I mean, if the film was a bigger thing and it was more of a franchisey thing, maybe we could have got official Lego sets. But
Right.
that dream will come one day. One day.
Man, that's so cool. I love that. I can't wait. I got something to Google over the next couple weeks.
So I want to jump in with my quick question real quick.
Please,
It's
yes.
also a bit nerdy to be on topic. I always like to do like a very off the cuff question with people we interview to break it up from the mundane. I was actually watching one of the interviews you were doing. You were talking about fixation with Mercedes, and you were saying, "Yeah, well, I needed something to do in the pandemic because all I was doing was playing Animal Crossing." So
Hell yeah.
one, I totally need to be your friend on Animal Crossing because I love Animal Crossing. But my biggest question is, since you have the background in like cinematography, your DP, and all that, to all those people who play Animal Crossing, you can go to Harv's Island, and in his house, you can like make custom rooms and all that. And I've seen people make like little movies and recreate scenes in Animal
Yes.
Crossing with
Mhm.
that. So, have you done that in Harv's Island? And if not, what would you do if you did?
Well, I'm sad to confess that I probably have not visited my Animal Crossing island in 2 years.
Whoa.
Well, I get it. I get it. It was
'Cause
Animal Crossing
it was a
made for the
phase.
pandemic.
Exactly.
Right.
It
made
was
for the
it was
pandemic.
it was maybe one of the most vivid examples of right place, right time that I can think of. Like we were all stuck at home and stressed and worried about the state of the world. And here comes this bundle of pure, calming, Zen-like bliss that just transports you to paradise and gives you something to do and a bunch of things to take care of and people and cute little animals to
Or you
meet.
can like
So
play with your friends on it too.
exactly, and it was very social, and I actually spent a lot of time with friends on Animal Crossing, like on the phone, visiting each other's island. It was great. That was. It feels weird to say like, oh, those first few months of the pandemic were kind of great, but in that regard, in that specific regard, they kind of were. It was like you
I
weren't
did the
worried about
exact same
work.
thing.
Yeah, like the stress of work went away.
Oh, well,
Nobody was
I was
working.
still working. I was
Yeah,
still
well,
working.
fair enough.
Yeah.
For me, the stress of work went away, and yeah. So Harv's Island, I did play with that a little bit. I've never. Here's my other problem is as a gamer and as anything. I'm a little lazy. Like I'm a little like I see things that people do in games. Like for example, Zelda. Played it this summer, loved it. Tears of the Kingdom, fantastic. Finished the game. I nearly 100%ed it. I did not get all the Korok seeds because I'm not a
Yeah,
lunatic.
a little too much.
No one has.
Much.
That's
But
not
here's
true.
the thing. No, well, some people do. I know people who do, and
Oh gosh.
and again, bless them. But
Right.
this is the point. The Zonai devices. I really enjoyed watching videos of people constructing these like incredible things. I mean, people were building
Yes.
like Gundams, the Batmobile,
Yes.
like crazy stuff. And I could barely put together like two sticks and a wheel. Like I'm just too lazy to like really get into like the tedious particular like persnickety things in games.
Mm.
And so Animal Crossing is a perfect example. Like I've seen people recreate things in the photo studio, and make little movies. And I've seen people's islands and their designs and everything. And I'm just like, I could never get to that point. Like it would take me so long just to do one little thing. So I don't know if I have a satisfying answer to that, but I love seeing other people do them. If
Right.
that makes sense, I really admire it. It's just
No,
a
I
fun.
mean, yeah.
I love that people
It's like
derive
you
pleasure in
last
that
time.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
exactly. Like it's just cool. It's like it's just like a niche little interest, And I think our niche little interest is film. My thing that I do is I watch movies. Like I watch every movie that comes out every year. Like that's my version of that. And
Yeah.
most people don't do that, and I do that. And so that's like everyone. That's my niche interest. That some other people have other outlets that they express it in, whether it's with
Right.
Zonai devices in Zelda or recreating entire scenes in Animal Crossing from other films. Like that's great. I love that. But
Yeah.
that's not mine. That's not my niche. I'm too bad at it.
Fair enough.
I don't know it well enough. Know your limits, know your limits. Know
As
your
the only
limits.
only other person that's actually like professionally within the film business at this point, I can say it makes me happy to hear that you actually enjoy watching movies and shows and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
I've been on set with so many people that are just like, yeah, I don't watch movies. It's just a job to them. It's like,
Yeah.
why are you here? Like,
I
what?
don't I don't get
I
that.
don't get it.
I don't get that. I don't get that because it's a hard job. Like it's just
Yeah.
And it's technically a niche job. You have to be in a union. You have to go through all this spiel of like learning the process of how to do it. It's not like being a construction where you can just like, oh, can you lay bricks? Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. It's like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the same.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Passion.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it needs that because I mean I it was interesting. I was talking to somebody online. It was on some Facebook group, forum, whatever, about like this person posed this question. And it was basically like someone earlier in their career, and they were like, what do you guys think? They were posing the question to the group. I am a little tired of the films, like the indie films that I work on, expecting so much from me, taking up so much of my time, expecting me to do all this free work, prep, research, showing up, like working after hours, scouting after a shoot day. And he was basically asking, like, so for those people who are a little further along in the industry, like when does it stop? Like, is that really is that really sustainable? Is
Oh.
that really realistic? Because it doesn't. He's like, that just doesn't seem right to me. Like, it doesn't seem right that that's what this entails. And my response to that is like, find another industry. Like, I don't know. Like, if that passion isn't there, the reason we do all that stuff is because we're passionate. Like, we love making film. I love watching films. I love making films because I love watching films. Like, because I like movies, I like making them. And so, like, the satisfaction of of making is at least 50% of it is thinking about the satisfaction of watching the finished movie,
Right.
or at least of
Yeah.
striving towards like creating a finished movie. To me, it's like, it was just as satisfying to make any of the films that I've made, but specifically focusing on the creator, as it is to like watch the finished film. And because I don't have that, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like watching my own work, and I just see the mistakes and I'm just critical of it and all that. And I don't really have that. Like, I mean, I don't not have it. Like, I see things that I would do differently when I watch a film, but it does not overshadow my experience of just watching it like as a movie. And so I used to host a little podcast myself. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Cinematography Salon, but still ongoing, by the way. Great podcast. Not sorry to shout out a different podcast on your podcast.
Please, we love it.
No, we cross over all the time with other people's stuff. It's fine.
Go for it.
But because now it's my friend Ava's co-hosting, and she's great. Anyway, and Peter. So we had Mandy Walker on last season. I brought her on to interview, and we asked her this, and we kind of talked about this same topic, because I've had these conversations with DPs like Mandy and like Greg and like that. And the thing is like, even at the highest level, big features, big studio films, like full budget blockbusters, there is this expectation, like, you're going to do pre-lights on the weekend. You're going to do scouts on the weekend. You're going to do scouts after wrap. You're going to sit with the director. You're going to go watch dailies. You're going to do prep work in the morning. You're like, the process of making the project within reason. I mean, this is why the 10-hour days or less is important, because I think part of it is like, you need to just free up both physical and mental time to like think about the movie, and not just be in the process of physically making it, but also be able to have some brain waves free to like think about it and think about what you're doing next week and all that. But that expectation is there, and that dedication is there. And it's like, if you want to make it and work at that level, you kind of need to put in that work. Like, there's no way around that. Right. There's no, I mean, again, within reason. Like, I think that everything we talked about earlier about boundaries and physical and mental health, like, is super important. Yeah. But within that framework, like, when you're on a project, especially having gone through it with the creator, like being on location, so there really isn't anywhere else for us to be, both physically and mentally. When you're on a project, like, you're on the project, like, your dedication and focus is expected and required. And if that's too much, like, if that feels like it's asking too much, then I don't know why you're doing this. Right. Because, like, to me, I'm doing it because I am passionate about it, because I love movies and I love watching them and I love making them. So that's why I want to put in all that work, and I want to make it the best that it can be, with fair compensation, with rest periods, with et cetera. Right. But still, like, it's not just a job. It's not just something I clock in and clock out of. If that's what I was looking for, I would not work in film. And so, long tangent to loop back to this idea of, like, I also don't understand when people are on set. They're like, I don't watch movies. I don't really care about movies. So I'm like, then why are you in this industry? Like, there's easier jobs out there. Like, there's just easier, chiller jobs that would not cost you as much physically and mentally and emotionally. I would just go get a different, but anyway, that's another tangent.
Well, when you mentioned, one more thing, when you mentioned Greg, you mean Greg Fraser, is that correct?
Greg Fraser, yes.
Yeah, because I saw that you're a co-DP on this with Greg. He was away doing Dune Part 2. Right?
Yes. Yeah, well, he was prepping Dune Part 2, so he was still active with us, but he wasn't physically on set. So he was watching dailies and dealing with some remote stuff behind the scenes with with in terms of dailies projection and working with photocam, working on back end, working with ILM for our virtual production component. We had a few sets we shot on the volume, and working on our Pinewood shoot in general, like pre-lighting that, working with the art department there, and then also just keeping in touch with me like on the daily in terms of what we we're doing in Thailand. So yeah, very active role, but just not physically there. It was very unique. I mean, the whole thing was unique because our director was also the camera operator. So
Yeah.
you know, even in that regard, it's not your typical like, well, I'm the DP, so every single thing about the visual, like every indie film that I'd done up until now was pretty standard. Like, well, I'm the DP, so I'm gonna choose where the camera goes, and I'm operating, and I'm also lighting, and also planning the next week and doing everything. Whereas on this job, it was like, well, there's two DPs, so there's two of us who are planning instead of just one. And then I'm not deciding where the camera's going, and I'm not operating. So it's like it was very different, but kind of great. I mean, it was very great. Like I could really focus on image and lighting and everything and supporting our director. And that's really what cinematography is about. So it was a great experience. Very collaborative, but very different and unique. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I imagined it was a very collaborative, but like, it sounds like you guys are really like kind of a triad of hand holding there, where you kind of, working as a three-headed monster. You know what I mean? That's really, and it shows so much.
Triforce.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yep. That's exactly right. Yeah, it was like that. And it was a very special experience. I don't know when I would be able to replicate it, but I would definitely. Like, it was really fun. I love collaboration. I just love, because I love movies and I love making them, and I like working with people who like making them. So it's just fun. Gareth is like a total film nerd, so it's like very easy to to collaborate with somebody like that, because you're just talking the same language. You're just talking about references and movies that you both like.
Creator is a very reference heavy movie. Like, I was listing them in my head as I was leaving, and I was like, these guys just parked themselves in 80s sci-fi and said, yep, that one and that one and that one. And I love to see that influence in there, because it's giving me all those flavors without like forcing me to think about the plots of those movies either.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you liked it. A lot of people didn't.
Listen, a lot of people didn't, made for me.
A lot of people didn't like that specific thing. Now, I love it too, because I'm a film guy, so I'm like, I love all the references. To me,
love the nostalgia.
Yeah, it's nostalgic, and it's a movie that wears its references on its sleeve, and I think that's a good thing. It's like what Tarantino does, but some people, I don't know, they didn't get it, I guess. But that's a topic for another podcast.
Was it disappointing when you saw the box office and it just kind of just petered out? Was it disappointing to see that?
This one's going to have long legs, though. I can't imagine.
I agree, but yeah.
I mean, the whole reception, there's an element of it, and I have to be careful for myself to like not make it sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not, because this was like an incredible experience and opportunity and a big step up in my career. And like, I'm so grateful for all of it. And I'm so lucky to have been a part of it. Like, truly, genuinely, I'm not just saying that as like an asterisk, but in addition to that, there was an element of the release that was disappointing, the box office and the critics. But, like you said, what can you do? We made the movie for the audience that it's for.
Yeah.
Which includes us. And I think that's always the best kind of movie that you make, is like you make a movie for that you would want to see. And I think we really did that, and everyone who worked on it's super proud of it. And I think it'll find its legs and it'll find its audience over time. Like, my best hope is that a lot of great sci-fi films have found their legs later in life. And so, if we were lucky enough to be counted among those, like if we're a Sunshine or Children of Men or anything like that, like films that sort of didn't do great, or obviously the original Blade Runner is probably the quintessential example.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Didn't do great at time of release, even got kind of
even
mixed
the sequel
reviews.
Didn't do well.
And it's and it just builds over time,
Yeah.
Well, and
One can hope.
I had a mentor tell me one time, the box office is for the businesses to make their money back. The filmmaking process is for the artist to grow. How do you feel like you grew working with Gareth and Greg as an artist? Did you grab any nuggets that we have lots of filmmakers in our audience, or like aspiring filmmakers. What's to the cinematographers specifically, did you grab anything from them that you're just like, wow, that really advanced me?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, we talked about this earlier, and I think this is a good summary of like the whole career. Even though we didn't touch on too many other specific films, which is probably for the better, honestly, because some of them are not great. But uh, you learn something on every project. Like
Right.
everything you do, you take something away from, and you learn something from that experience. And I've really learned and taken away, especially from the features, just because it's so inundated, like it's so all encompassing, multiple weeks or months, you're immersed in it. So you really take a lot away from it. And I took things away from every film that I've done, from Nightmare Wakes and from Fixation and from the first movie that we did when we were students, and all the way up to The Creator. And each one of them is like, it's a bunch of things. It's really specific things. It's really general things. It's really personal things. It's like, it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
The Creator was certainly a life-changing experience, in many ways, both personally and career-wise, but also as an artist and as a filmmaker. And there's so many little things. I mean, I guess the top line one was probably just the collaboration and trust. That was the biggest thing. Just from experiencing working with a director like Gareth and with Greg in our corner, but not physically on, like all of the circumstances of it were just very trust inducing in a good way. And I think trust is a really hard thing on set, because you're collaborating with so many people, a lot of times people you've never met or never worked with. And so trust is hard. Like it's tricky. It's tricky because a lot of times you're also you're collaborating with people who aren't great, like, or who don't know what they're doing or whatever.
Mhm.
And on The Creator, that wasn't the case. Like everybody was amazing. And so I think it was an interesting experience in that regard. But you take something away from everything, and it really was sort of the quintessential, like, special experience of my career so far. But
So
it's just the
far,
start.
yeah, you're
It's
young,
just the
man. You've
start.
got some
Yeah,
you've got some
exactly.
home runs behind you yet. I can't wait to see them.
Just the beginning. Yeah, just the beginning. Well, as long as they get Lego sets, I'll be happy.
Right,
That's the
right, exactly.
That
Maybe we can get
should
a
be like your stipulation per movie contract. Whenever they're like, "Will this be a Lego set?" Okay.
I really should. I mean, I'll take a pay cut
right.
to pay for the Lego set, like R&D.
Yeah.
No, I won't do that.
Pay me in
I
Legos.
won't
That's all
actually.
I need.
Yeah, exactly. I won't. If any agents are listening, I will not do that. I will not take a pay cut. Thank you.
He works for Legos.
Yeah, I'll take that as a bonus. Thank you very much. But I do still need to make a living out here.
Right. Absolutely.
Do you have your next
Awesome.
project lined up yet, or are you still are you just taking some time off right now?
No, we're looking actively looking for the next project, but we don't have it lined up yet. So in the meantime, I shoot commercials in between narrative projects. So I'm on a bit of a commercial run right now, and
Yeah.
loving it too. You learn something on every commercial as well. Like every shoot is an experience. Every experience there's something to gain from it,
Right.
as well as rent money.
as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
People don't realize.
Strike,
Yeah.
put a dent in that. So
Yeah. Last year was rough for everybody. So I think
Right.
everyone's just grateful to be working on something. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much like professional filmmakers actually do like commercials on the side. They don't realize like David Lynch does TV commercials between his
Oh, yeah.
projects.
Yeah.
It's a job. At the end of
Yeah,
the day,
yeah.
That's right.
he's got to pay the bills. It's
Well,
not
and not
nothing to be
only
ashamed
that,
of.
especially with the DP sitting with us here, the visual language of commercials is so fucking strong. That is no script in some cases. You're almost all visual on some commercials. Being able to like cater that muscle within your artistic brain, that makes your movies so much better, just overall, because you know how to communicate so much more clearly.
Oh, 100%. And by the way, the other thing that commercials are really great for, among many other things, is it's a good way to test gear.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so on commercials, I try to shoot with a different lens set on every commercial,
That's
because
so cool.
and usually new stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, I just saw they announced these new anamorphic lenses, like, and maybe I'll go look at them at a rental house and be like, okay, yeah, these look cool. Now I want to kind of test.
Insight.
yeah, I want to test them in the field. Like I want to see them actually on a shoot. So commercial is a great excuse for that because, again, going back to that earlier conversation, nobody really cares about about the lensing.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like clients, like people who work for some brand, like, some like a car company, they don't know about lenses. And why would they? Like, I don't know about carburetors. So why would they know about lenses? But so it's a good excuse to like try things out and test new things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're gonna be there to feed if you're gonna be there to feed the capitalist machine, you'd be like, well, I'm gonna have some fun on the side.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and fun, and also like I'm doing research. Like I'm literally like testing something for myself as an artist, like or for a future project or whatever it is. Like, yeah, Greg did some of that, like on the Creator, the FX3 and the lens combo, the Mercury anamorphic and also the Koei anamorphic. So he did a couple of commercials before we started filming where he tested those the camera and the lenses in the field on commercials to test the look, the workflow, and everything. So yeah, it's just another example of that, like just a great excuse and opportunity to like be like, hey, I'm working on this movie coming up and we want to use this camera that people haven't really shot a movie on before. And we want to make sure that it pairs well with these lenses that we selected. So what better way to test that than like on a shoot, on a job?
Love it.
So yeah.
That's so cool. Damn, I feel like we have just picked up so much knowledge from you. I really appreciate you taking a chunk of your afternoon to chat with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. This was great. I always love nerding out about this stuff. I mean, I feel like I could go on and on. So I apologize if I'm rambling on some stuff, but it's just
it's
great.
We love it.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's great. Y'all are geeks too, and I love that. I appreciate that. That's like my people. So it's just great to be able to talk about this with anybody and not just like alone.
I could have done an hour on illegal Lego builds alone. You know what I mean? Just like,
oh my God, we could do so many breakout podcasts about the illegal Legos.
Do you mean breakout podcasts?
A breakout podcast?
Oh my God!
It was.
It
was right there.
I had a rant about Legos on an earlier episode of our podcast.
Oh God, tell him this story. Oh God.
So obviously we're all from like the same generation. I grew up with original 90s X-Men. That was my shit.
Yes.
Gambit is my man, all that. So, and with the resurgence of X-Men 92 coming out, they released Lego sets for the X-Men, and I went and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is my childhood. This is everything. This is Lego and X-Men. And I got so excited. But where it was sitting, it was like 5 different prices around it. I was like, oh, let me just check to see what price it is, whatever. And I go, and it was only like a 200 to 300 piece set. It was cute.
Yeah.
It was the Blackbird and like 3 minifigs. And I was like, okay, like 40 bucks, fit, whatever, it'll be fine. I checked the price. It was like $90. And I was like, I got so mad. My hopes and dreams were crushed. My inner childhood nerd was like, why are you doing this to me?
By the way, I bet that if you searched for custom X-Men Lego MOCs, MOC, there's going to be some masterpieces out there.
Absolutely.
And this was the best thing about it is like once you remove yourself from the official, especially with franchise stuff, Marvel, like those Lego sets, frankly, often are a little phoned in and they're overpriced because of the brand. So like the custom stuff for all the geeky stuff, like I have like an Iron Giant little Lego. I have an alien xenomorph. These are all custom builds because Lego would never make these sets, and not as intricate as this either. So there's some good stuff out there. You should all get into it. Get into it.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, I would make my own X-Men little minifigs. I would like paint them and everything, and I would like had the whole thing. So I'm all about that.
Hell yeah.
One day they'll do a big official collector's set. Those ones are always really nice.
Yes. Like I have the DeLorean Lego
Yep.
set, and I love that one.
The big last one that I built was the Titanic.
Whoa.
And I had to take it apart. It was longer than my coffee table, and I had nowhere to put it. So one day I'll have one of those completely like horrible Lego basements where it's just
Well,
one
no, the
day.
way
This
you're
is
supposed
Horrible. That sounds amazing.
the way you're supposed to do it, you break it at the point where it actually broke. So
Yes,
half
and
of
then
it
just
goes on the coffee table, and the other half is going to be on the other side of the room, so it replicates the entire crash site.
Right.
perfect.
That's
This
an
is all
awful
part of
joke.
this is all part of the vision. It's all part of the grand vision. I
Wow.
have the big Millennium Falcon too. I had to take that apart.
Yeah.
Oh man, isn't
Yeah.
it like 10,000 pieces?
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
my
and I have no
God.
room. I have no room for it. One day.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
one day. Well, Oren, we'll get you back on when you have your Lego display day.
Oh yeah, we'll do a Lego brick out podcast. We'll do one about blockbuster budgets. We'll do one about Animal Crossing. We'll do you name it. You name the topic. We could do a whole breakout podcast.
Hell
about
yeah.
it.
Maybe we'll
I'd
bring
love
it back at the end of the year for the best and worst of the year episode.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch every
Oh.
movie in the year, I'd love to get your
Perfect.
recommends at the end of the year.
I do watch every movie every year, although at this point I could only really contribute to a best of because I don't want to get in trouble with anybody.
No, yeah,
That's
that's the way we're leaning to now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, for Seth and I, it was the movie that was horribly offensive last year, and that one's okay to be angry about. We'll tell you off air.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Like I said, that we had a great time asking you a bunch of questions. Really appreciate all the knowledge you imparted to us, and good luck on your next one, man. We're gonna be rooting for you
Yeah.
now because it's. I mean, you already like blew our socks off before we knew you, just walking out of the theater, and now to attach a face and an artist to that, it's so cool. And what a home run! That's the best looking movie of last year. Like that's a feather in your cap for sure.
Thanks, y'all. I really appreciate that. Y'all are very
I'm
sweet.
loving the nerd behind the camera. Okay.
Right.
Oh well,
Right.
yeah. You can't put the nerd back in the box. You know, once a nerd, always a nerd. Been a nerd since I was 5 years old.
You're among friends here, babe. You're
Yeah.
among friends.
Exactly.
And if you're
I love
ever
it.
shooting in the DC area, you know how to get in touch with me. This is me begging for a job.
There you go,
Man,
Mr. Gaffer.
By the way, I grew up in the DC area, but I've never shot there.
Really? Where are
Really?
you from? Where are you from?
College Park, Maryland.
Shut the
No
f-
shit.
up.
God damn it.
I lived 20 minutes outside of College Park for the last 10 years.
We're
I have
all
not-
from Maryland.
Where are you from? Well, I haven't lived there since 1998. So just to be
Okay.
clear, but
Okay.
that is where I grew
Well,
up.
live in
That is where I grew.
Florida now. So
Right.
I mean,
But where are y'all from?
I live near Annapolis, Davidsonville.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, and Hope, you were up in where were you
I
before
was-
you moved?
So I was born in PG County,
Yep.
Mhm.
moved to Baltimore. So I went from one ghetto to the next.
Well, my school was in PG County.
What?
Hell
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Paint Branch Montessori, a great place.
I'm Montessori. I love it.
Well,
Oh, man.
I was like Clinton, PG.
Yeah, different. It's the other side of the forest.
Right.
Just a little bit different.
Dude,
I
I'm
love
so stoked to end this episode on some Maryland pride. Hell yeah. Break out your crab hammers and let's end this podcast.
go Terrapins. I don't fall
Oh, go
sports.
Terps.
I don't know anything about that, but
Well, hell yeah. That's going to do it for this one. I'm so happy to have had this interview. If you have watched this far, thank you so much. Again, I just push you to check out our socials on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, or X if you call it that. Please check out everything that Oren does as well. Just one more time, I'd like to remind you guys that we really appreciate your support. If you're here on the Patreon, I really appreciate you watching the whole way through. Leave a comment. We want to chat with all of our new members that might come in for this episode. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we do have a Patreon, and they got to see this early, so you can check it out there. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, and good night.
Gareth has a great anecdote, by the way, that he's told, which is that when he did Godzilla, he and Bryan Cranston were doing a press tour, and it was one of those junket days where they come in and you get 15 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
MTV comes in, and they just started like freestyle rapping, like it was totally spontaneous. Like Bryan Cranston was just like MTV, rap, and then he like passed it off to Gareth, and he went with it, and it rhymed, and it was great. And then they were like, "Oh, that was amazing. Oh, well, you guys got anything you could possibly want, right?" And then they were like, "Oh, we weren't recording yet."
Oh no!
Wow.
Oh,
Dude.
Brutal.
oh, that sucks. God.
Brutal.
That hurts. That just hurts.